Okay, before you read, I want to know what you already know about some ideas in the text. I will ask you a few questions to find out. Okay, what is a biography?
Isn't it like an essay that you do on a person?
Okay, what is slavery? What do you know about slavery?
Like, what is it? Or,
Yeah.
well, one person has, like, a person and they treat them really badly and they make them do stuff for them and pretty much.
That's it? Okay, and what does it mean to be courageous?
To pretty much the opposite of fear. To be strong and...
Anything else? That's it. What is a settlement?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. All right. So, given the title of the passage is Biddy Mason, and we talked about biography and slavery and courageous and settlement, what do you think the passage will be about? What do you think she could be, or who she could be?
Maybe about a slave?
About a slave? Anything else that might happen to her? Anything you say, it's not right or wrong. It's just a guess.
That's courageous and maybe escapes or something.
Cool. Okay. You now get to show me how you can read on your own, because my job is to make sure I remember all the things you do as a reader. I'm going to write notes and record this. This will make sure I don't miss any of the great things you do. Since this is your time to show me who you are as a reader, I can't give you any hints or help. If you come to a word you don't know, do your best and keep on going. Do you understand so far? Yeah. When you are done reading, I will ask you to retell what you read. Your job is to pretend that I didn't hear this or that I didn't know the selection. So tell me as much as you can. After you tell me all that you can remember, I will ask you some questions again. Pretend that I don't know anything about the selection, so tell me all that you can. Ready? Okay, the passage is called Biddy Mason. So whenever you're ready.
Sometimes it seems they would never stop traveling. First there has been the long trip to Utah. All day Biddy had walked along behind the wagons, tending the cattle. For months they walked, getting farther and farther from Mississippi. It was a hard trip, especially for her children. But what could Biddy do? She was born a slave. She was a slave today. Her master told her to walk across the plains, and she did. They stayed in Utah only 1 year. Then word came of a new settlement in Southern California. Robert Smith decided to go. Again the wagons were packed. Again they began the long days of walking. Biddy had plenty of time for thinking along the way. What she mostly thought about was freedom. As a child, she had never known a black person who wasn't a slave. Oh, she had heard about the ones who escaped to the north, but it was so hard to imagine. Then came the trip west. Things were different here. She had seen families, black families, traveling west with their own wagons. Just think of it. They had planned to find their own land, start their own farms, or find work in towns. Biddy had thought about them for days. Biddy looked down at her bare feet. They were tired and sore, covered with dust. These feet walked every mile from Mississippi, she thought, and they remember every step. They have walked for Mr. Smith and his family. They have walked after his crops and his wagons and his cattle. But someday these feet are going to walk for me. Someday these feet will walk me to freedom. I'm sure of it. A few days later, the tired travelers arrived at San Bernardino, California. It was a lovely place. It was their new home. There were many reasons to enjoy living in California in 1852. The climate was pleasant, the land was good, the air fresh and warm. Cities were booming. Everywhere there was a sense of promise and excitement. The most important thing for Biddy was the promise of freedom. She had heard people talking. The new state of California did not permit slavery, they said. By law, all people were free. Biddy looked again at her dusty traveling feet. Soon, she said to herself, soon. 3 years passed. Life was pretty good, but Mr. Smith must have loved traveling. Even this beautiful settlement could not hold him. He decided to move again, this time to Texas. The wagons were loaded and made ready to go. Biddy knew she had to act. As soon as the wagons left San Bernardino, she began looking for an opportunity. She found one. Somehow she sent word to sheriff in Los Angeles. He stopped the wagons before they left California. I heard you have slaves in your party, said the sheriff. I suppose you know that's against the law. Is it true? Biddy came forward. In all her life, this was the first time she had ever spoken to a white sheriff. Still, her voice was strong. It is true, she said. Mr. Smith is taking us to Texas, and we don't want to go. That statement led to the most important slavery trial in Southern California. Biddy spoke to the judge, and her words were strong and clear. I want to stay in California. I want to be free. The judge sided with Biddy. He scolded Mr. Smith for breaking the law. He gave all slaves their freedom. Biddy gathered up her children and said, We're moving once more, but it won't be very far. We're going to Los Angeles, and this time, she said, looking at her tired feet, I am walking for me. She started her new life by taking as her full name Biddy Mason. She went to work as a nurse and a housekeeper. Before long, she saved enough money to buy a house. Soon she bought other property too. Biddy Mason was a good businesswoman. She became one of the wealthiest blacks in Los Angeles. She shared that wealth with others. She gave land to build schools and hospitals and nursing homes. She supported the education of black children and helped people in need. Biddy Mason had come a long way from that slave's cabin in Mississippi. She still remembered the walking, and she made sure she helped others along their way.
Good job. What do you think of it?
Well, just a good story.
Good story? Okay, so in your own words, just describe to me what happened in the story, as much as you can.
Well, it was about a slave named Biddy Mason, and she lived in Mississippi, and she had a master named Mr. Smith, and they kept traveling, and they eventually went to California, and I don't exactly remember if California was free, or somewhere along the way they were in a free area, and Biddy wanted to stay there, so she let a sheriff know, and her master got arrested, and she got free.
Sure, free. And then what happened?
And she stayed in California with her children, and she became a good businesswoman, one of the richest people. And she didn't just keep all the money for herself. She wasn't selfish with it. She shared it with others.
That's cool. Okay, so what is the selection that I asked you to read mainly about? Like, what's like the main concepts of it?
Like, well,
if you could sum it up in like one sentence, what would you say?
It was about a slave that... Hold on, I think.
It's okay. Take your time.
It was about a courageous slave that wanted to be free at any cost.
That's good. That's a great description. What did Biddy think about while she was walking from state to state?
Well, she was thinking that one day she would walk for herself and do what she wanted with her life.
Yeah. What did Biddy see on the trip west that was different from anything she had ever seen before? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
You don't remember? Okay, what was special about California in the 1850s?
It was a free place.
A free place.
So no one could own slaves.
And why did Biddy need to act quickly when Mr. Smith decided to move to Texas?
Well, because they were moving quickly, so she would have to. I think Texas wasn't a free state, so while they were in a free state, she could act. And,
Yeah.
Go
Okay. What two events happened when the Los Angeles sheriff stopped Mr. Smith's wagon?
I think it was Biddy said, I forget what she said, but she said like a really strong statement, and it's kind of popular and well known now. And I don't remember the other one.
Okay, what was the outcome of the trial?
What do you mean?
So when she went to trial and she had to speak up, do you remember what happened after the trial?
She said that she wanted to be free, and the sheriffs scolded Mr. Smith, and I don't remember what happened to him, but yeah.
What did Biddy mean when she told her children that they were going to Los Angeles, but that this time her feet were walking for her?
It meant that she was telling her children that they didn't have to. They were free, that they could do whatever they wanted now, and they were in charge of themselves, and they didn't have to go where other people wanted them to.
Awesome. And give two examples of Biddy's behavior that indicate that she was a courageous person. So two things she did that were really courageous.
Well, she decided to, she was really courageous when she spoke up for herself, and when she got the chance that she decided to be free, and also during the trial, I think.
Yeah, those are good examples. Why do you think the author chose to write a biography of Biddy Mason?
I think the author chose to write a biography of Biddy Mason because
What about her would be a good reason to write about her?
well, because it's really inspiring to some people.
Yeah.
And
great answer. So we're all done. Anything else you'd like to add? No?